Breakups have a way of making us feel like we've lost our footing in the world. But after everything calms down a bit, we calm down and the dust starts to settle all around, it's normal and natural to wonder, am I ready to date again? Am I ready to put myself out there once more? And we ask ourselves this question because starting again too early can feel great and validating and exciting at first, but it can also end up hurting us and even other people if we're not truly ready. So today I want to give you a way to check in with yourself and see where you're at. Not to follow some sort of arbitrary and stiff rule like wait 3 months or wait a year to start dating again, but to figure out if you are truly ready. Not just lonely or bored or looking for a distraction or even looking for a way to dull the pain of your last relationship, but to figure out if you're truly ready in your heart and in your mind. Hi, I'm Madalena and this is You Reclaimed. On this channel, we talk about how to take our lives back from the lasting effects of childhood trauma, of anxiety, and of emotional dysregulation in general. And we do this because, well, we want to live good lives that are lived on our own terms. Wait, did you subscribe yet? I have a lot more to share and I'd love to have you here for it. It really helps my channel grow and I appreciate it so much. The first thing to understand is why timing matters so much. Dating too soon doesn't just automatically mean you're going to get hurt. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that at all. But it can reinforce the exact patterns that you may have played out in your last relationship and that you're now trying to get away from. Dating too soon also means that you can fall into a rebound relationship. And rebound relationships are very common and they're not necessarily evil, but they seldom work out long term. And why is that? Well, because in rebound relationships, we're usually choosing someone just to fill the space that our ex has left in our emotional world instead of looking at a new person for who they really are and what they really bring uniquely. I remember after a particularly difficult breakup, I met someone else maybe 6 months after, and I liked this man. I thought he was lovely and I was instantly drawn to him. And I did consider dating him, but when I started to talk to him and tried to get to know him, I realized maybe a couple of weeks into it that my emotional needs were for this man to fulfill the loss that I felt over my last breakup. Because that loss had been painful and difficult, I was now looking to place this man in that empty void that I had in my mind that was still raw and painful. And it's not something I knew immediately, but when I considered what I liked about this new man, I felt that I was trying to figure out how I could fit him in this emotional void I had so that he could satisfy my emotional needs in a very particular way. And when I realized that I was doing this, I took a step back and I stopped. I politely backed off and decided that I needed some more time because it wasn't fair to him. I wasn't actually get to know him. I was really trying to see if he was going to fit the space that someone else had left so that I could feel better. And it wasn't really fair to myself because I was running the risk of investing in someone that I didn't have real compatibility with because I couldn't see past my last relationship to get there. So this is why I say timing is really, really important. Your emotional readiness doesn't follow the calendar. It's only about being able to show up autonomously, emotionally autonomous, without using a new person as a coping mechanism. That being said, let's talk about sign number 1. You are no longer consumed with thoughts about your ex or your last relationship, whether you were married or involved in something more casual. Preferably, you've gotten to a point where you can think about your ex without feeling intense longing or anger or deep resentment because you've processed your feelings. You're not spending time checking their social media or replaying all your conversations with them or holding out hope that you'll accidentally run into them at the grocery store and rekindle things. And if you are still in that place, don't feel bad. We were all there. Because if you do feel that way and you start dating someone else, part of you is still emotionally trapped back there with your ex. You might not feel completely neutral about them, and that's okay because complete neutrality is hard to reach, but ideally you feel mostly at peace with the fact that they exist somewhere out there in the world and that you're no longer together. You can stomach the thought of them walking around out there without feeling sick to your stomach or flooded with deep displeasure. Sign number 2 that you might be ready to date again is that you've processed your last relationship, not just the breakup part. There's a big difference between moving on from the pain and bad feelings that the breakup caused you and then moving on from the actual person you were with and from the entire relationship. If you were in a long-term relationship or married, this might take longer, but either way, you've had time to reflect on what worked in that relationship, what didn't work, things that you don't want to do again yourself, things that you're not willing to accept about the other person, things you don't want to sign up for again in the future. Preferably, you've considered your own role in it, not just the wrong steps that your ex took, but the ways that you contributed to how things went overall. Maybe you can even name some specific lessons you've learned, like things you want to take forward into future relationships. And I don't mean vague things like, I'm never dating an avoidant again, or I'm done with guys from Italy. Those kinds of statements and sentiments usually mean that you still have some bad feelings about your ex, who happened to be Italian, perhaps. When you've moved past things like that, when your takeaways are actionable and realistic, that's when you might be ready to date again. Sign number 3 is that you've gotten to a place where you've rebuilt a solid sense of self, meaning your identity as an autonomous individual, not just as someone's partner. Being in a relationship, it feels a certain way. Being single feels different. And being single gives you the space to really feel yourself outside of partnership. A lot of people don't get much of that. Sometimes we go from one relationship to the next for most of our adult lives, and we never really get to appreciate the feeling of just being sole, autonomous people. I personally think that's a very empowering and stabilizing experience. Ideally, when you've reached this place, you can enjoy your own company. You've reconnected with some of your likes and your dislikes, explored some hobbies, created your own routines, and maybe set personal goals that have nothing to do with a particular partner. So when you picture your future, you can imagine a version that excites you even if no one else is there with you. That's not to say that you don't want partnership, but it does mean that you'd be okay getting to that future version of your life by yourself without feeling absolutely devastated. That way you're moving forward not from a place of desperate need for any partner whatsoever, but from curiosity and openness so that you can truly see people for who they are, instead of just sort of casting them in a role that you've already written in your head. Sign number 4 is that you've gotten to a place of clarity about what you want for yourself. You've thought about the kinds of relationships you want to engage in, why you want to have a particular type of relationship or person in your life, and you know that there are some non-negotiables that you really want to stick to. Ideally, you have those non-negotiables clear in your head. This is why in the last point I said that I think it's really valuable and empowering to find yourself single sometimes. Because when you go from relationship to relationship, especially if your last relationship was not exactly stellar and it didn't make you happy, in that case, you might be tempted to go for the opposite of whatever your last partner was. Has this happened to you? It's definitely happened to me. So if your ex is a highly avoidant accountant and you start dating very quickly after your breakup, you might be tempted to find a highly anxious plumber who really values emotional connection. Because this new person would be a big contrast to your ex. And that might work out for the short term, but what sometimes happens is that we go from one extreme to the other. So instead of finding a middle ground, a partner who's balanced and the most appropriate for us, we tend to choose whatever character traits our ex was not if we were unhappy. And I don't think that's the most successful way of choosing a partner. It's also why it's so important to really, really clarify for ourselves our list of non-negotiables. Because if we don't know the kinds of things we don't want, and at the same time, the things that we absolutely want to see in a partner, and I'm not talking about a 150 checkpoint list, it's really hard to filter out the wrong people when we don't know what we want. It's why so often we go into dating and accept things that are just not good for us, even things we've been through before that we already know work out poorly, because we don't make it clear what we are not willing to accept anymore. So without getting really clear on what we want in a partner and what we're absolutely not looking for, it's really hard to draw the right person into our lives. And this is not about clinging to a specific fantasy or outcome. It's more about getting really clear with yourself on the kind of life and lifestyle that you want to live with another person by your side. If you want to have children and you're dating people who are not interested in having a family, it's probably not going to work out well. But if you don't keep that at the very top of your list, it's impossible to filter out the wrong partners. Step number 5 is that you feel ready to be vulnerable with another person again. This is really important. This means that you're at a point where you're willing to risk being disappointed in your search for a new partner without feeling like the disappointment would completely destroy you emotionally, that it would just crush you. When you're still in that raw, sensitive place after a breakup or hurt, it's hard to be emotionally close to someone else. Vulnerability feels dangerous because you're focused on avoiding anything that would cause you pain again. But once you've moved past that, then you can communicate openly about what you want, what you need. You can clearly share your boundaries with someone else, and you can let a new person see the real you without being consumed by the fear of potential rejection. You know that, yes, the possibility of being hurt is always going to be there, but you're no longer so fragile that you can't take the chance. The bottom line is that there is no magic number or arbitrary deadline for when you should start dating again. Your readiness is about your own emotional stability, and it's about trusting that you'll recognize when it's time. So before you re-download those dating apps or you say yes to that blind date, check in with yourself. If you can honestly say yes to most of the things I've covered in this video, chances are you're in a good place and you're ready to give it another shot. In that case, good luck, have fun, be brave. Until next time.